All right, let's not drag this out. We know why you're here. I know why you're here. Let's get into it. It's the Black Eric Foreman back in here with another album review, and today we have Hopsin No Shame album. Hopsin, aka Marcus Jamal Walker. Marcus Jamal Hopsin is a woke rapper from Panorama City, Los Angeles. An artist who I would say has developed quite the reputation in hip hop for being known as kind of like the odd man out. No, that isn't because of the contacts. Or maybe it is, I don't know. The way I've always viewed Hopsin and the way he's always portrayed himself in his albums and mixtapes is though he's a person who tries to take away people's ability to dislike him, so he makes himself unlikable before they even have a chance to. Like a guy who's extremely insecure, so he has to convince others that he doesn't really care about their opinion of him anyway. That mentality does of course show up on this project as well, although there are some highlights. Hopsin begins this project with the first track called Hotel in Sydney. This is where he details the incident between his ex-girlfriend, Australian ex-girlfriend, and himself while he was in Australia. A domestic incident that the conclusion has led to Hopsin being pretty much banned from Australia. He's got some extremely harsh words for his ex-girlfriend, who used to casually go by the name Aussie's Baddest on Instagram. You have amazing choice of women, Hopsin. Amazing. This intro starts off extremely energetic and emotional, extremely grabbing as Hopsin goes into this incredible amount of detail explaining to the officer why any violent acts against this batch should be justified. While I'm all for victim blaming and having an album open up with a man, venting about why everyone else is the problem, there's something extremely familiar about this track. Not that suspenseful, oh, we just made a revelation, thriller, scary music in the background that he's constantly making a reference to throughout this entire track. That overused horror movie music, you know what I'm talking about. What is it about this intro track that's so familiar? Oh yeah, Hopsin. We already know who 1999 to 2003 Eminem used to be. I don't need you to remind me. It follows up with a track where Hopsin pretty much gives the finger to any of his critics on the Right Here joint, and you can actually see where this thought process and this mentality has led him when he explains it on Black Sheep. Although I'm not really into venting and I'm not really into hearing a dude complain about things that aren't really worth complaining about, these are just regular people problems. Most people have these issues from time to time. The only difference is trying to feel bad for Hopsin while he's also trying to make himself seem like this badass. Like, I don't get what he's trying to do at some points on this album. It's like you want me to feel bad for you and you want me to view you as this person that can't be touched at the same time. Hopsin remains a dominant part of each of these tracks, each of these songs. He makes sure at the very least that regardless of what it is that he's talking about, he is the star for every single track. Something I enjoy about Hopsin. He's a good rapper, he's a good lyricist, but his subject matter and the message of his album is kind of where he falls short. The same can be said for this album. There's a handful of good tracks like The Pvrge and Twisted and even Witch Doctor, but the things that keep me from enjoying even these tracks are the fact that the hooks are really poorly done and there's nothing really catchy about any of the music on this project. I don't mind having an album where a person wants to deliver a message for the entire time. I mean, J. Cole, For Your Eyes Only was pretty much an album that didn't really have that catchiness factor, but he was trying to deliver a message that could be told as if it were a story, so you didn't really require that same catchiness. With this project, it's like a bunch of fragmented, scattered thoughts from Hopsin as he's going through his life at the current stage, and there's nothing really appealing about any of the points of reference that he's using. While Hopsin remains the star of every single track, it's kind of hard to feel any sympathy or pity for him when listening to these tracks and hearing the whole self-absorbed, self-righteous mentality that he totes all throughout this album. We get a bunch of one-sided, black and white stories and situations where Hopsin is intentionally trying to force you to be on his side because he's not offering you any kind of decent alternative. It's like there is no alternative to Hopsin on this record. He's pretty much painting himself as someone who can do no wrong and everyone else as someone who's wronged him in some incredible way. You know you've gone off the deep end when you're playing the victim blame game and you begin rationalizing a school shooting. And sure, Hopsin doesn't literally say this, but he certainly implies it by again victimizing himself, so his could-be, would-be actions would appear justified. He always gives a precursor situation. Oh, I was bullied, so my thoughts about school shooting are justified. It's funny how in all of this album, Hopsin sees so little fault with himself that he even sees fit to go ahead and make a diss track or a parody of mumble rappers. Oh look, it's another rapper intentionally picking at artists who he knows are lyrically subpar and are gonna give him no kind of response or any kind of competition, trying to make himself seem smart by doing so. Very funny how on the track Black Sheep, Hopsin tries to make you feel bad for him by explaining how he was bullied in school because the kids were picking on him for being different. Hopsin, what are you doing on the No Word Skit 2 then? You really do live long enough to see yourself become the villain Harvey Dent, insinuating it's something that anyone can do, something that has zero talent behind it, right after Hopsin just gave what may have been the worst song of his entire career, Happy Ending, which is a track that I really don't even want to discuss because I'm really hoping Hopsin is aware of how ironic a song like this is being on an album called No Shame. And then we have Money on the Side. She do whatever I want her to when I want her to. I'm sliding into her number 1 and her number 2. So on ILL Mind of Hopsin 9, I know a lot of you guys wanted to hear my thoughts on this track specifically, and the thing about this track that rubs me the wrong way isn't the fact that it's completely sapped from its normal ILL Mind of Hopsin vibe. I mean, generally with these kinds of tracks in this series that he's been doing with the ILL Mind of Hopsin, he's been finding a group or a subject to talk about and being extremely vague in describing all of the intricate details that could go along with it. Like, it's literally just one-sided, Hopsin versus everyone else, and there is no in between. But on this track, he takes a slightly different approach by, I guess, explaining to his son that the reason I'm not in your life is because of your mother's actions, which I wouldn't necessarily have an issue with or had we gotten information that was mostly in defense of Hopsin, because I can understand Hopsin's frustration being kicked out of a country and never allowed back. This has a hit on the amount of revenue you're able to gain. I'm pretty sure you probably have fans in Australia. Pretty sure your reputation is going to take a hit. And obviously the biggest of them all is your relationship with your son. The only problem with Hopsin's logic here is you are already not present in your son's life. How do you think he's going to respond hearing a diss track to his mother when the only thing his absent father has given him is a diss track to his present mother? I'm sure he'll be calling you real soon, Hopsin. Of course, there are other tracks on here, like Black Sheep, that have vocals from Eric Turner that give the track a little bit more soul. And we have a track on here where Hopsin tries to be introspective on Marcus's Gospel. But even on these tracks, it's literally Hopsin finding another way to make the audience try to feel bad for him for reflecting. Kind of like a, what would you do if you were me kind of situation. Like, you think you could do better? Like, it's not one of those situations where Hopsin is still looking at himself in the mirror and saying, I can do better or I can change these situations. Just like he finds a way to become the victim again. And then on the final track, he makes himself feel like this powerhouse that can't be stopped. So you're going to exist in this lane or you're going to exist in this lane. You have to pick one. You can't be the victim and be the one that can't be touched. While I do want to give credit to something like ILL Mind of Hopsin 9 for bringing forth an idea of social media and electronics raising your child, it's so hard to literally think that this is a good idea or a good move for Hopsin, knowing that you are still dissing this kid's mom. Like, it doesn't matter what you say, the one who's present is gonna get preferential treatment. You could say whatever, and it could be true what you say about his mother, but that's not gonna mean anything to him. He's still gonna love his mom regardless of what you say. The hooks, like I said before, is something that is a little concerning for me because I don't like listening to music that focuses so heavily on the hook, and then the hook is so weak at the same time. It wouldn't be a problem if this was just hookless material and Hopsin just wanted to go off on a lyrical rant, but he doesn't really do that. He actually tries to make hooks, and they're just not pleasing at all. This is just my opinion. Hopsin, No Shame album. I really hope you guys found something enjoyable about this project. I tried to. There was, you know, only so much of it that I could say is something I return to. But unfortunately, most of this album is a snooze fest because Hopsin is giving you pretty much the same material he gave you years and years ago. I mean, there's not really an evolution. It's just more ranting and more finding a way to blame other people for the things that are currently going on in his life, but still trying to make him seem like he's untouchable at the same time. It's Shawn C. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you enjoyed the review. Hope you enjoyed the album. If you did, please let me know in the comment section down below what was the best part of this project for you and why. Hope you enjoyed the project. It's Shawn C. and I'm out. Halfway expected to hear a Weenie Beanie line on this album, like a like a condom reference.